Hello, everyone, and welcome to an Hour with Dave, a straight shooting talk show that doesn't hold anything back. You either love the show, hate the show, love me, hate me, doesn't matter, but it's the show you want to watch. 1 hour with Dave.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another show with an hour with Dave. We have two special guests on our show today, and remember that any comments or any opinions are strictly mine and my guests, not that of USALA Media. And like always, you love the show, you hate the show. Either way around, it's okay with me, as long as you tune in and listen. But we got our regular, and we're going to keep her coming in. Is Pastor Maggie. I call her Maggie anyway. And the new guest today will be John Shane. He's also a pastor and president of New Hope Outreach Ministry. First, I'm going to get Pastor Maggie to introduce herself the right way and talk about her ministry. Go ahead, Pastor.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you. Always an honor. And I just want to say thank you for the invitation and great to be joining with Pastor Shane here. My name is Pastor Maggie Bellevue. I am here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with Kingdom Empowerment International Ministries, also CEO of Treasures International. We minister right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And with Treasures International, we work with individuals in the city as well as across the world, particularly in Haiti, where we're currently building a school to really help people to find the treasure within and develop their gifts and find their purpose. So that's what we do. We travel around the city and around the world to serve God's people.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I want to extend an invitation to anyone who is maybe new moving into Philadelphia or anyone who has lost their church or whatever reason. You're more than welcome to come up to Bustleton Avenue and visit, because you're going to be welcomed there with open arms and a lot of love, because that's all that you get there. You don't get nothing else. Pastor Shane, how are you, sir?
I am well, thank you very much.
You wanna and you're actually the president of New Hope Outreach Ministry, correct?
Yes, sir. I've actually founded it back in 1994. So.
Okay, and we're gonna get into this. What exactly does your ministry do, sir?
Our ministry is based solely on James 1:27, which says, "Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: visit the fatherless, visit the widow in their affliction, and keep yourself unspotted from the world." And that's what we do. We visit the fatherless. Not only visit them, but we partake in their lives. We visit the widows. Not only visit them, but take care of them as well. And of course, keeping ourselves unspotted from the world.
Beautiful. And how many countries are you in right now? Did you start your ministry in Russia?
Actually, we did. We started our ministry in Russia in 1985, thinking that was going to be my sole mission trips, and God expanded our ministry in the year 2000 into Ukraine. And in that same year, he also expanded our ministry into Sri Lanka. And in 2008, God opened doors for us to go to Ethiopia. And then in 2010, God opened more doors for us to go to Kyrgyzstan. So we're involved in all those countries, working with widows and orphans.
Wow, that's incredible, incredible. Now, your ministry, what exactly do you do when you're in these countries?
Well, we just want to present Jesus. That's our sole purpose.
Sube el volumen.
We go. I first started going to an orphanage back in 1994, and there were 200 or 117 children at this orphanage. Their ages ran from 6 to 16. Uh, when I went into this orphanage, I couldn't believe it. It was on the edge of Siberia where 50 below zero is not uncommon. And I walked into this orphanage. Not one child had a pair of shoes. They were wrapped in rags. And everything they owned, they were wearing because it was so cold. I took a tour of the orphanage and was looking for a toy, just any kind of toy. You know, these are just kids. And I went through the whole orphanage and never saw but one toy. It was a single broken roller skate. I went into the rooms, and inside the orphanage, it was 30 degrees, um, freezing all the time. Their food was slop, just plain slop. Um, I went back to my room that night, and I just cried. I cried all night, and asking God, please, God, send somebody to help these kids. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, God spoke to me, and He said, "Okay, John, you help them." And I had no idea how to do that. I had no one who knew how to do that. We were in a communist country. And, I'd already been to Russia several times prior to that. I've been strip searched, interrogated by the KGB, thrown in jail for preaching, uh, and working with the underground church. And now all of a sudden, God wants me to help orphans in Russia. And I made a lot of excuses why not to do it, but God's pretty persistent.
Oh, yeah, I think anybody who tries to put up a fight with God loses. So I would never want the challenge that you got because, whew, that's a heavy cross to bear. Um, Pastor, what do you think?
Wow. Wow, that's an incredible story, and it's sad. As a pastor, I have dealt with similar situations. I do a lot of mission trips in Haiti and Dominican Republic and in different places, but particularly in Haiti, when I do travel, you would not believe the degree of hunger that families and children are going through. And that's one of the reasons why we started our organization, Treasures International. And we're currently building a school there, and we're working with mothers as well, helping them to start their own businesses by providing microloans to them to help them to get on their feet, because a lot of those children they cannot afford to go to school. They don't have government schools widespread as here. So they have to pay school fees. And you watch these brilliant children talk to you with tears in their eyes. Their sole desire is to attend school. And last year, 2 years ago, because of the coronavirus, we didn't go last year. But 2 years ago, we went and we watched these children. I remember I started because I was crying and I was like, oh my God, how can I help? What can I do? And God clearly spoke to me and He said, yes, you can help. And I've been going ever since. It's been almost 7 years now. I've been going and helping the families, the mothers, and the children there, and to the point now that we are building a school. We purchased a land, and now we're going to be starting with construction, hopefully by the end of this year, hopefully maybe before, according to God's grace. When I hear 30 degrees or 50 degrees below, my God, my goodness, it's heart wrenching. It's just, whoo,
Well,
this is
it's
hard.
kind of it's the opposite because you don't have winter where you're building the school, right?
In Haiti, it could be over 100 degrees. It could be over 100. They don't have winter, but the summers are brutal. I know. Last summer, I was speaking with them, and they were like, "It's over 100 degrees." So it's the opposite.
Wow. Talk about two people with an incredible ministry. And when you start to think about the challenges, you're going from severe heat to severe cold. and it's got to be incredibly challenging. Pastor John, at this point, um, how many children have you been able to help um, over say Russia and Ukraine?
Well, currently we're working with about 10,000 orphans, our organization.
10,000 homeless
Orphans,
orphans.
right.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
we also work with the elderly. We also work with the handicapped um, and the mentally retarded. So it's God has just opened so many doors for us, and I can't. It's not my ministry. That's why I didn't name it John Shane Ministry. It's a ministry that involves the churches we work with, people from the churches that we work with. It's an ongoing ministry that really has exploded.
Wow. Now, when you're dealing with these kids, what kind of stuff do you do? First of all, let me get back to this. You deal with children, right? And then you deal with
Right? Yes.
and then you deal with seniors.
Yes.
Seniors, right? Okay. Now, let's break this down. How much time do we got left for the first segment? I want to start breaking this down. Keep going. Okay. Yeah, because I don't want to really stop on this one. On the kids, what exactly do you provide the kids with today?
Well, actually, when we first started going uh, in 1994, at that very first orphanage, God spoke to me about a young lady that was there. She was 13 years old. She looked to be 11, or 10 or 11. She was so undernourished, dirty, smelled bad, had clothes that were just shreds. And he spoke to me about adopting her. And so I began the process, not knowing what to do. Nobody there could tell me because they'd never done an international adoption before. And so I had to learn the process on my own. Well, in doing that, I met the Minister of Education in Russia and told her that I wanted to adopt this 13-year-old child at the time. And she said, well, no, she says, you don't want that child. That child's in an internat orphanage or a stupid orphanage. And I said, you don't understand. God chose that child for me. Well, I've since learned that the internat orphanages are orphanages where kids go that are not what we would call normal. Some of them have a big nose. Some of them have big ears. Some of them have birthmarks that cover part of their body. My daughter was burned at the orphanage when she was 1 and had a huge scar on the side of her neck and down over her shoulder. And because of that, she was placed in this internat orphanage, which is orphanages for kids that are just maybe not perceived as being normal. Had nothing to do with their mental capacity. Some of these are the smartest kids you'll ever meet, but they're not given an education. My daughter, when I brought her to America at the age of 14, had at best a second grade education. She since went on to high school and graduated from high school with honors. We homeschooled her. She went on to Bible college and got her bachelor's degree in theology. So very smart young lady, but never given an opportunity.
So the children in that particular orphan were more like outcast among the outcast.
Yes, yeah.
How can you be an outcast among outcasts? That doesn't. My God.
Well, and even society there in Russia would laugh at them, spit on them, curse them. They were treated like animals.
Oh my God.
Wow, it just baffles me to just get into some of this. We're gonna take a break, and then when we're gonna take a 30-second break because I need to regroup myself for a minute. because I feel my patience, I want to say, getting moved here, because I can be the opposite of the nice David. But I just want to take a break for 30 seconds, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to get into some more of the handicap and then the seniors, and then we're going to ask Pastor Maggie to compare what she goes through at her ministry in Hades compared to what we're having here. And we're going to move on, okay? So hang in there. Everybody grab your cup of coffee and take it easy. And let's pray real quick because huh, this topic is not an easy one to go through.
Mm. Oh, God.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to An Hour with Dave, a straight shooting talk show that doesn't hold anything back. You either love the show, hate the show, love me, hate me, doesn't matter, but it's the show you want to watch. One Hour with Dave.
Welcome back, everybody. And I had to cut in to take a break because I had to regroup myself for a minute. We're here today with Pastor John Shane and Pastor Maggie Bellevue.
Bellevue.
I'm gonna get it right because I'm used to calling her something else, not in a bad way. Um, but I love them both, and we're comparing at this point John's ministry and Pastor Maggie's ministry, and it's just unbelievable the difference, just what's happening. Yet at the same time, you could see the pain and the suffering that's going on around the world, and then we're going to try to bring it into here and compare to some of the stuff that may be happening like on the border and what this country has gone through to get to where it's at. It's just unbelievable. But if people may think that certain things don't happen, that certain treatment doesn't happen, a handicap to a person because of the color of their skin, to a person because their ears may be too big or their nose may be too big, as Pastor John was saying, there's a lot of hate out here. And it's our responsibility as Christians and as God fearing people to not accept people being treated this way. Um, I was going into Pastor Maggie. How does that compare to your ministry right now?
Actually, I cannot believe the similarities because here in Philadelphia, we also serve the seniors. We also serve the seniors here and the handicapped. We have what we call Abundant Life Home Health Services, where we go into the community and we find those that are handicapped and that have no help at home and that do not want to live in a nursing home, and also the seniors that have no family members. So, what we do, we go into these homes and we provide them with food and we connect them to various food pantries. Many of them we have to do delivery. You would be amazed. I went to an interfaith coalition meeting, and the number one thing I heard was that seniors right here in Philadelphia were eating cat food. Right here in
Oh
Philadelphia,
God.
Pennsylvania, in the United States, because they did not have food to eat. So we made it our business to serve our seniors that we provide. We do caregivers training, those that we provide services for into the home. We make sure that they have a box of food every month, that they're covered, that they don't have to starve. You would be amazed that seniors are starving of hunger right here. And some of them or just too humble or just they don't want to reach out for help, and if you don't find them, sometimes it may be too late. It's a sad situation. It's really sad. It's happening abroad, but it's happening right here in the United States of America as well, in our
Now
community.
that's happening here. How's the senior situation here compared to the senior situation in Haiti?
Well, in Haiti, it's so catastrophic that there's no help. There's no government office. There's nothing at all. Many of the seniors become beggars. They become beggars in the streets. Um, it's sad. It's really sad. A lot of people they go through, especially after the earthquake that happened in 2012, January 12th, 10 years ago. After that earthquake, over 1 million people lost their homes, whatever home it was. People were. Let me tell you, the situation is so bad. From 10 years, over 10 years ago,
Mm.
12 years now, people are still living under tents from 12 years ago. And those tents were meant for people to just get by for 3 months or 4 months or 6 months until the government came. And if you know the situation in Haiti right now, there's such political upheaval, there's so much going on till now. There's no stability. People are still sleeping under those tents from 12 years ago.
So
They
the
still
tents
have
have
those
become
tents,
their permanent homes.
permanent homes.
With
Yeah,
no
they
with
call
no
them tent
running
cities.
water, no running water,
No running water, nothing at
no
all.
way
They
to cook your food.
no, they call them tent cities till now. And when we go to missions, we go there. We go to they have it's so funny because they call the tent one of the tent cities that are very well known is called Canaan. We know Canaan in the Bible, so it's called Canaan City, and that's where thousands of families are living still under those tents that have holes in them. When it rains inside the tent, it rains. They have buckets to
Oh
pick up
God.
the waters that's falling from the rain. It's horrendous. It's horrible. And I just like Pastor Shane said, when I saw that, I started crying, and the missionaries were like, Maggie, if you cry everywhere you go, you can't do missions. You can't be crying like
Mm.
that. I said, but it's sad. It's sad. It's really sad to see animals are not supposed to live in these situations, and to
Oh
see
God.
people living like this, and children. I remember we called a couple nurses that we have. We have a group of doctors on ground when we do our medical missions that test people and we give them free medication. And when we started, we were doing things out of pocket. You know, I was trying to help. And the nurses went into the tent cities and they were telling people, coronavirus is here, wash your hands and do this and do that. Do you know what the ladies the mothers told the nurses that we sent out there? The mother said, Lady, you're telling us to wash our hands consistently throughout the day. We have babies. We don't have water to give them to drink. She
Oh.
said they have to buy water from a little plastic thing. Okay. She said we don't even have water to put in our babies' bottles to give them to drink. And you're asking us to wash our hands consistently. That's the situation. It's
Whew.
that's the situation.
Pastor Shane, compare the situation in the Ukraine and in Russia with seniors. And I know that I get literature and I've sent donations to Russia to this Jewish organizations that help Jewish people in Russia to get food. Have you seen that for yourself? Have you seen the senior situation over there as bad as what's happening in Haiti?
Let me tell you the first senior center I went to in Russia. My team had gone before me, and they said, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to respond to these people. And I went there, And at this particular one, the first one, there were 20 people there. There was no running water. They had an outhouse about 50 yards from the place where they slept. There were 20 of these, or 10 of these people confined to beds, and the other 10 were ambulatory. There was one worker who was drunk. That was all, one worker for the whole thing. The food was awful. Everything smelled like urine and feces. Bedding of these 10 that were in the beds had been changed in no telling how long. You know, God tells us, love our neighbors, we love ourselves. And our teams went in and we started cleaning them up, washing their clothes, cutting their fingernails and toenails, just giving some just general care. And these people cried. They cried in our arms and couldn't thank us enough. And I'm thinking all the time, you know, God, where is somebody with compassion that will reach these people? Our teams can't do it. We're visiting so many of these and finding needs so great. And we're doing our best to keep up with them. In Ukraine, it's the same way. And these aren't nursing homes. These are places where people go just to die. That's their only reason they're there. Their families have given up on them. The government's given up on them. I remember one lady who was 99 years old. I shared the gospel with her for the very first time. She gave her heart to the Lord. And afterwards, she said, you know, she says, I've given everything to my country. I've given everything to communism. I've given all my life spent for nothing. She says, and what do I get when I'm ready to die? Nothing. And I thought about that because there's no pension plan there. This is Russia. But we're trying to make ourselves look like Russia. For crying out loud, it's one of the ugliest countries in our world. Hatred abounds. You walk around in any street, in any city, and people have their heads hang down. They don't look at you. There's no smiles. You go into a restaurant, all you hear is whispers. So those are some of the things we deal with, but we bring new hope, and it's exciting to do that. And people, we've seen so many people give their heart to the Lord over the many years that we've been working.
Wow, this is unbelievable. What you guys are sharing. These are seniors. So that if it's that bad with children and seniors, now I want to ask the both of you is to compare people who are handicapped, people who may need chairs, people who don't have a leg or need crutches or special shoes or boots or who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Pastor Shane.
I think Pastor Maggie has to group herself for a minute. Pastor Shane, how is it that we're getting into the handicap now? If things are this bad, where's the help for the handicap?
Again, when I first started this, I had heard rumors of handicap facilities.
Okay, before we get into this, we're gonna get into the handicap. I think we're gonna need to take another quick break. That'll give the three of us time to regroup, and then we're gonna get into handicap. And in the last segment, we're gonna get into whether or not government in these countries are really doing something and where we're heading. But let's take a break now. Let's cut it into a break now so we can get the third segment in, and we'll discuss about the handicap on both sides. And I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. We're talking about two different ends of the globe, and the comparison of the pain and suffering. Yet we complain in this country about what's happening here when we know we could do better. So let's take a break.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to An Hour with Dave, a straight shooting talk show that doesn't hold anything back. You either love the show, hate the show, love me, hate me, doesn't matter, but it's the show you want to watch. 1 Hour with Dave.
In a touchy topic that we're on. We got two incredible people, pastors in our midst here, who are actually we're able to compare things in Haiti, things in Russia, things in the Ukraine, and we're just I'm telling you, we can't even compare to how spoiled we actually are in this country. Yet we still, with all our resources, have homeless people, have seniors who are eating cat food, have children who ain't got the proper books and education's falling apart. We got the audacity in this country to complain when these two individuals are going to tell you, you think you've got it bad? Look over your shoulder. Stop being ignorant. Now I'm starting to lose my little bit of my patience and temper here. So I'm hoping that my pastor Maggie somehow can wean me in a little bit, cause I can feel that I want to say something and I don't want to insult millions of people, which I know I'm about to. But let's get back into this. Um, Pastor Shane, you were comparing. We got into handicap. We're going to let you speak for a few minutes, and then we'll get my pastor to come in and give her version so that we know. So what's happening? We know the kids are being mistreated. We know seniors are being mistreated. God forbid you have one earlobe longer than the other in the Ukraine, because then you're less than the regular orphans. So what happens with the handicap?
Well, let me say something about Ethiopia first.
Okay.
In Ethiopia, there are 91 million people that live there. It is the second poorest nation in our world. There is nothing I can compare it to. Everywhere you go, you see dead people on the roads. You'll see sick and dying people everywhere. Tuberculosis runs rampant. AIDS runs rampant. Polio runs rampant. And nobody is, the government in particular, is not paying attention to any of this. Now back to in Russia, I've been looking for this handicapped orphanage for about 3 years, couldn't find it. Finally, we stumbled across it, way out in the middle of nowhere. That's where they put the handicap. I since found many, but that was the first one. We went into this handicapped orphanage, got there about, I suppose 8 o'clock at night. And I just wanted to talk to somebody and see if we could come back. I got in there and I heard all these screams, all this crying. And I looked around for a caretaker. I just somebody, a doctor, a nurse. You know, in America, we think surely they're being taken care of. But finally, I found one lady. And I talked to her and I said, how many people are here? And she says, we have over 200 people here. And I said, really? She says, yes. She says, and 100 of them can't even get out of their bed. And I said, really? I said, does anybody come to visit them? She says, mister, nobody comes to visit them. And I looked around and I thought, oh my gosh, here are a few people that are simply suffering so greatly and nobody cares except God. And I looked at her and I said, lady, I said, we'll be back. I said, we didn't bring anything with us, but we'll be back. And I have to tell you, this particular orphanage or place has improved greatly since we've been going. And we found so many others. We were a place out in the middle of nowhere where in the wintertime you can't get there. There's no deliveries that can be made there. If they don't have enough food, they simply starve to death. And same thing. And we go back there in the summer times and the kids and the adults just love us. Just hug us, cleave to us, and want more stories about God. And it's so hard to leave those places. I'll be honest.
How do you? How do they survive? I don't understand
I
this. Where do they
can't
get
tell
their
you.
food from? Where do they get their? The government does nothing for them. You're saying.
Not a thing. Not a thing. There's no provisions. I remember when Russia had gone bankrupt, we had visited an internat orphanage, and I asked them about their pay. And the lady said the government came by a couple of months ago and dropped off a 100-pound sack of potatoes, and that's all we've gotten from the government since then.
So you had 200 people on one site. If they had a 100-pound bag of potatoes, my God, and we're throwing food away every day. Food away every single day. It's just, Pastor Maggie, you're up.
Oof.
How's the
It's
handicap where your ministry going in Haiti?
in Haiti, when you say they don't even use the word handicap, they use the word kokobe, which means worthless.
Worthless.
That's the word they use to describe a handicapped person. And that's everybody's language. That's how they speak. They call it, you look it in the dictionary, the word for handicap in Creole, the Haitian language, is kokobi. It means worthless. So they call these people worthless every day, and you see them by the roadside and all throughout the country. There's no infrastructure, first of all, for anyone who's handicapped. They have absolutely no infrastructure. I know a family, a friend of ours who had gotten a great job with, I forgot the name of the organization, not Compassion. She was going to be making more money than she would be making here. She was an HR generalist and she had gotten this great job. And her son has cerebral palsy and he is confined to a wheelchair. When they moved there, no one was even willing to stay home, to take the child to school or to stay at school with the child to help him. And I remember her son was crying every day here in Pennsylvania. He's an honor roll student. And out in Haiti, even he was going to a good school, he was crying every day because children would look at him and it's like he was out of place. Why are you here? You're handicapped. You're worthless. And it was really sad. And she says there's no infrastructure, not on the roadside, not even in the homes, nowhere. She had to move back to the States because she said, I was going to lose my son. He was so depressed living there. She could not believe how the handicapped were treated. There's no government home for the handicapped. I believe they have one or two schools in the whole nation of 12 million citizens for the handicaps. They don't really have anything. They don't have schools for them. They don't have any programs for them. Nothing at all. They don't even consider them in the society. They call them worthless. The worthless ones. They're
So,
begging all across the roads.
and actually, then in that country also, there's no government assistance. No government assistance in Haiti either.
Oh no. In Haiti, there's no government assistance, period. Period.
You know,
They don't have no social infrastructure. None. None whatsoever. None. None
so
whatsoever.
actually, someone in Haiti or someone very poor in Russia or Ukraine or Ethiopia, I believe is what you said, Pastor Shane, um, is really out of luck. I mean, your survival from day to day depends on what you could beg,
Yeah.
what crumbs you get given,
Yeah.
what rags you can wrap on your feet.
Yep.
That's a lot of pain. That's a lot of suffering. My God. Okay. All these countries that we are visiting, here's the big question. All these countries that we're visiting and we're talking about, all communists and socialists. Pastor Maggie, is Haiti a free nation or is Haiti militarily run?
It is a free nation, supposedly.
Okay.
It is a free nation. Um, but honestly, is it? It's supposed to be. It is on paper, but I can't really say the way the daily operations or the diplomatic relationships. When you look at how government is really funding the country or the help that comes into the country to help the people, they never reach the people. So we call it a republic, but is it really? Because if we're not working for the people, then who are we working for?
I could make a really snotty remark, but I won't. I'm gonna pass on that one again because you're on the show with me. So they ought to be very grateful that you're on the show with me, Pastor. Um, Pastor Shane, um, the countries you're involved with. How many countries you're involved with today uh, in your ministry? Is it 3, 5, 10? How many? And how many of the first of all, Russia's communist. Ukraine, what is it?
Ukraine is trying to break away from the old communist days. They're socialist. Every country I work in is at least socialist.
At least socialist.
But uh, uh, Ukraine is still governed by Russia.
And I know that Ukraine has been fighting on their borders against Russia. I mean, their oil rights were just mineral rights were just taken off of them, like somebody taking a bowl of food off of a child.
That's it. Every country that ever went to war in Eastern Europe has wanted the Ukraine because it grows a lot of crops. I mean, the soil's right, the weather's right. And so Ukraine's been defeated so many times it doesn't know what it is. But it is a country that I believe one day will be setting its own constitution, its own laws. It's the only one of the group that we work with. The rest are, except for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is very socialist, leading towards communism. The other three are socialist plus communism. So, yeah, it's a society that I have firsthand knowledge of hospitals and doctors over there. I remember I was playing basketball with a group of kids in Ukraine, and I slipped and fell and broke my wrist. And so they took me to the doctor. And I got to a doctor, and this guy took my wrist and slammed it on top of an x-ray machine. The x-ray machine was probably 40 years old at least. They turned the x-ray machine on and sparks came flying out. And it was dirty, filthy. The offices were dirty. I've been in hospitals and this is socialistic medicine now we're talking. Open bay hospitals of 100 or more people, jammed in there, many of them bleeding, many of them crying out in pain, and nobody's tending to them. I was recently in Sri Lanka, had a major illness myself. We believe it was COVID. Collapsed 3 times on my own, third world nation. And they said, we're going to take you to the doctor. I'd rather die than go to a doctor there. And so I told them, no, I'm not, they wanted to take me to the hospital. So I said, no. And so I went to a private doctor where you can get in right away if you have some money. And so I paid, got in, and they wanted to keep me in the hospital. And I told them that was on a Saturday, and I told them no, I'm preaching on Sunday, so I had to preach 3 times on Sunday. And my wife was with me, and she really kept me afloat. But it's those kinds of things, where if I would have been a citizen of that country, I couldn't have seen a doctor for maybe months.
It's getting to sound a little bit like Puerto Rico. We're going to get ready to go on another break, and then we're going to come back to our last segment and figure out the difference between what's happening in this country here, how we're losing track of things compared to where we may be heading if people don't start to pay attention to what's happening out here. So let's take our last break, and then we'll come back and end our last segment with closing and give you 2 time to also give a closure of what you want to speak about. So,
hello, everyone, and welcome to An Hour with Dave, a straight shooting talk show that doesn't hold anything back. You either love the show, hate the show, love me, hate me, doesn't matter, but it's the show you want to watch. 1 Hour with Dave.
good afternoon, everybody. And again, we're ending our segment here. I know it's been a rough and a tearjerker, and I want you all to remember the comments that are here on this show. It's An Hour with Dave, is mine and my guests, not that of USALA Media. So if you got anything you want to say negative, don't blame USALA. You need to come to me, okay? Because I don't have a problem. You love me, you love me. You hate me, you hate me. It's all good with me. Let's get back and let's get it. We're going to close this, our last part of our segment. And I want you guys to see politically now, the way the agenda is going with the changes that are happening here in this country. And I'm going to tell you something. I keep saying it to everybody out here. You're being jerked around by both parties. You need to start waking up. Look at what's happening on our border with the children in the border along Texas, along all of the borders that are happening now, with people trying to come across from Mexican and all the Spanish and Latin countries working their way through. Look at the way they're being treated, and listen to what both of these pastors are talking about now. Okay? We need to stop playing games when it comes to people's colors, when it comes to people's race, when it comes to people's gender. We've got to stop this nonsense. This country is heading into trouble, and everybody better wake up. And you Latinos out there that claim so much loving Latinos, stop your. You got to thank God that my pastor is on here with me. But you got to stop your nonsense, okay? Because ain't nobody going to take responsibility for them Latin little kids who are sitting in cages when I've seen chicken coops better than that. And it's nobody's fault but yours, because you're sitting here waiting for a damn stimulus check while they're playing games with people's lives. Listen to what these 2 pastors are saying that's happening around the world. It's happening today. It isn't the past. It's today. And it's going to continue today if nobody stands up. And again, you better thank God that my Pastor Maggie's on this broadcast. Pastor John, Shane, I want to ask you, what you see happening here today, do you see danger in the past and what you're dealing with and what's happening here today in this country?
When I go overseas, I know what to expect. And so I'm never disappointed. I wish it was different. I wish there was bigger changes. When I come back to the States, that's where I'm really hurt. Because I see people falling away every day from not only God, but godly principles. Here we're talking about taking money away from police when we need the police. We're talking about socialism and living in a socialistic society. Every country I work in is socialist, and it doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. I we don't have time to go into any of that today, but just visit one of these countries, find out for yourself. Uh, I don't know how else to say it. Go and get off your best intentions and get out there and see for yourself right here in America. You don't have to go with me overseas, but right here in America, take a look at your own communities, your own uh, areas of responsibility, and do the right.
Beautiful. Pastor Maggie, how do you compare what you're seeing in Hades and what you've seen, the suffering in Hades, and what's actually starting to happen here with the homeless, with the drug issues, with the crime, with the hunger? You're seeing it firsthand here. You're living it. What do you?
Yes.
How do you see it? What do you see the danger? You see a comparison coming?
It's so important for us as people, as a nation, to understand what has been built here in America. It is a great country, a country that provides so much freedom and liberty. And around the world, I remember going to Jordan in Haman, and people were hiding to have a service. I went to a service where a church service where the pastor was instructing the people, if the government comes after us, we're going to so and so's house. If they come in so and so's house, we're going to the next. And they were passing out sheets with information just for having a church service. If the government came, this is where we would go A, B, and C. And I was sitting there because he was telling me the government came after him so many times before, his life was in danger. And in this country, there is such a freedom, and the freedom to worship God the way that you want to worship God. But yet, we don't want to lose this freedom. We don't want to lose it because we realize the godly values that keep society together, that keep a family together. Now, are we in jeopardy of losing those values because we realize we're losing our Christian values every single day? There's such a decline right now in church attendance, not only because of coronavirus, it started way before the coronavirus, because we're not paying attention anymore. And when you look in the Bible, it says, there arose a generation that knew not God. And whenever a generation comes up that loses that connection, that relationship with God, the values, the divine values instituted by God, trouble is hit ahead. We're looking at trouble. So it's very important, as we celebrate the freedom we have in this country. I love this country. There's no greater country on earth that
Amen.
provides us with so much resources, but yet it has to be well distributed. At the same time, we cannot let go of this great gift of freedom. We have to use it in a way that pleases God so that we can remain prosperous.
I I I believe that you hit the nail directly on the head. Um, we have to end this segment and end this show, but I'm begging everybody out there, pass this word on. Tell everybody to come on the USALA. Tell everybody to go out there and listen to this segment. We're in trouble. They don't want your churches open. They don't want crosses to be out there. They don't want us to say, God bless you. They're taking your freedom away. If you're going to demolish the police, who is going to be in control? The military. That is what happens in communist countries, in socialist countries. You can't be that dumb and asleep. Stop waiting for a check and waiting for the government to take care of you. We best take control again. What do we got left? 1 minute. I want to thank both of you for coming on the show. I want to ask God to continue to bless the two of you. I'm going to keep praying for you, and I'm going to ask the entire audience out here to keep praying for you. And I think we're going to have to try to have another segment to get deeper into what's happening, so we can wake people up. But this segment really hit me, and it really tried my patience. Pastor Shane, Pastor Maggie, I love you both. I think you guys are great. You guys are blessed. Continue to work. Anything that ever I can do, if there's something that's being held back for you, you let me know. I'll be more than glad to speak about it, because I'm not afraid of anybody. And if I got something to say, I've got something to say. And I'm not worried about anybody, because the man upstairs is not going to let me take a beating. That's not going to happen. My battle is won, so I'm not afraid of anything. And I've been blessed. And I want to thank you both for coming on the show. And I will be in contact with you, obviously, Pastor Shane, during the week. And Pastor Maggie and I were always in contact. God bless you both. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to An Hour with Dave, a straight shooting talk show that doesn't hold anything back. You either love the show, hate the show, love me, hate me, doesn't matter, but it's the show you want to watch. 1 Hour with Dave.